Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Ivan Kalema. I'm joining in from Kampala. You're most welcome to this session. It is about 32 minutes past 8 o'clock East African time. We are so honored to have all of you on the call. Just type in wherever you're joining in the chat box, wherever you're joining. We have people from across the globe. Lennox just told me that it's just a few kilometers from Cape Town. Cape Town, I was there a while ago, and it's a very nice city. And we've got other people joining in from
Oh,
across Africa and the globe. So tonight we're going to have our third session for us who have been young enough. Trevor would call it session. For us, we shall call it season three. It's a season, it's a series like Prison Break,
yes.
it's a season. So we're so privileged to have everyone on the call. I won't waste any time. We're so privileged to have Trevor.
Good to see you all. Very good evening.
Thank you,
So
Trevor.
it's an interesting evening for me because this evening for me is a leadership challenge. It's like you prepare this meal for invitations to go out, and everybody says, "I'll be there. I'll be there. I want to come. I want to come." And then 10 people arrived, and I have been here many times, and it's every time it's a challenge. I was in a farm next to Soweto. I was guaranteed 1,000 young people to speak to about leading their own life. And they said, no, they'll be there, they'll be there, they'll be there. And I arrived and there's about 6 young people and 20, I think they call them go-go, the grandmothers. And the
Yeah,
go-go's,
Gogos, yes.
and who were wonderful, but and no youth. And I said, where are the youth? They said, they're still in bed. They're still in bed. So it is a challenge. I'm being honest with you because the issue around that we're looking at here about what does it mean to become someone who leads, loves, and leaves a legacy of your life. It's not an easy path. It's not an easy path. When you have a conviction and an idea and you want to offer something into the world and you know it's good and you know people will benefit, it's easy to think everyone will just be enthusiastic and just come and sign up. We have to review, we started out, we're down to 1/6 of the number that we started with 3 weeks ago. So we have to review, is this the right way of doing it? But whatever happens, we're going to do tonight because you are here. And looking down the list of names, each of you, I honor you because in my mind, each of you are like the rock. You've been around and I've been around with you and you've stuck at this even through the tough days. And I see like Tarsisius is with us. And a year ago I was sitting with Tarsisius in Lusaka in Zambia, talking about the Youth Campus project, and we were really excited, and we thought there were young people that were excited. And Tarsisius worked so hard to mobilize and encourage, and sure if there are any more people from this, because he showed up this evening. And Peter showed up this evening, and Lennox showed up this evening, and Ivan showed up this evening. And these are people who, for me, I've witnessed them developing real heart and character to say, if something's important, we just have to keep going. Even if we have to adapt and change and find a different way, we have to keep going with the conviction, even if the shop front of the. So we're going to be doing reviewing after tonight, but tonight we have this opportunity and we're recording it, so I'll send it out to everybody. I wanted to just say one word at the beginning, and I'm going to share my screen now if I can. So the week three challenge we're looking at is about being inspiring. So we're going to talk about that. But I just want to put this slide up. I put this slide up last week because there's been discussion from some older people who turned up to some of these masterclasses. Should I be here? Is this just for young people? And it's the important thing is to understand this. Now I'm going to hold up my hands. Can you see my hands?
No, Trevor, I can see your hands. I can see your hands.
You can see me.
Yes.
Right. You see, I'm holding up two hands. Right. So this hand here, I want to say is young people. Okay. Up there. They're facing this huge, how do I navigate my way through life? And there's all kinds of voices shouting at them, become rich, become famous, cheat, lie, steal, get involved into corruption. I've worked in countries where they just sit there and say to their parents, you buy me a mobile phone, parent. You have to do that, and don't even get out of bed themselves. So we've got all these kind of challenges. And then we've got young people who are entrepreneurs, and they're bustling and hustling and trying to do something. They're trying to earn a living. And I've met many of them who are really trying to do something and shape their story. So we've got these young people looking down the track of their life, and the question is, who do they see? They see these people who are often caught up in their own stories, their own worlds. And I've heard many young people say, I look at the older people in my life and it's not very encouraging to me. And you see them across nations. You see young people rising up, say, we are not happy with the leadership of our countries because of how they are just leading for themselves, not for the benefit of the nation. So here we've got young people who are looking towards their elders. Now, over this hand here, we've got people who maybe 40, 50, 60, 70 years experience of life, which means if they use it, they will have 40, 50, 60, 70 years of wisdom. And what is it that these young people need? They desperately need the encouragement, the role models, the inspiration, the wisdom of these leaders. So when people say, should I be here? The answer is everybody should be here, because the one thing that is true for young people and older people is heart and character. Sure. The whole purpose of the Youth Compass Project is this: your destiny will be shaped by your heart and your character. Everything. If you look at the great successes, you can look at a person's heart and character. All the great failures were failures of heart and character, not often of intelligence, but of heart and character. If you look at the great role models, and another one has died this week, Jane Goodall, heart and character were at the center of everything they did. So you see my hands are joined together.
Yes.
So when people, should I be here this evening? The answer is, whatever your age, yes, you should be here. Either you're here as a young person learning how to become an elder in your lifetime, or you're an older person who wants to be a role model and a mentor to younger people and help them. So we need everybody. Next thing I wanted to do is just very quickly, just to remind people, all this is about the Youth Compass Project. This is not some general leadership program. It's about wanting to get people to sign into the Youth Compass Project as a way of making this pathway towards becoming a leader, someone who builds a life for the benefit of others and leaves a legacy. And the idea of the Youth Compass Project is it provides you with a pathway, with an agenda, if you like, for learning, lifelong learning. And if you're an older person saying, I want to mentor young people, but I don't know what we're going to talk about, the answer is you use the Youth Compass Project like a curriculum for your conversations. Signed up, and it's free. There's no charge at all. Go to the website. I put the link for the website at the very top of the chat box. And when you go onto the homepage, you see this.
Yes.
So you go there and there is a video. Watch the video. It's 2 minutes long. It will show you the idea of what the Youth Compass Project is about. See, there it is. You click on the video. Now, once you've watched the video, underneath it says, start the Youth Compass Project. Or it says it again, register. You click on that and you register. So you click on that button, you register, and you'll get this it says create an account. There's no money involved. So you just fill in your names, create a password, and you're in. And once you do that, then you come in and you see the Youth Compass Project is 6 modules. And the 6 modules, module 1 is all about getting yourself ready, how to work with a group, how to get everything prepared, how to find an elder who will support and mentor you. And then modules 2, 3, 4, and 5 look at 22 qualities of heart and character to develop. And then module 6 looks at how you can commit yourself in 6 different ways to living a life that creates a legacy. So like tonight, we've already done module 1, the introduction week. So the next one is you go here and you see module 2. Last week, we looked at challenge number 1, start at the end. Tonight, we're going to look at challenge number 3. So you would just click on challenge number 3 and you'll get this screen where you'll have a little video of me talking. Then you'll have an explanation of the challenge and you'll see some questions. And there'll be somewhere for you to actually fill in your thinking and you build up a learning journal. So each lesson is a video, written explanation, set of questions, and a place to log your answers. Right, so I'm going to now stop sharing my screen. There we go. And introduce our special guest this evening. So I met Lennox back in, gosh, I don't know, 2013, was it? 2013, 14.
14.
And someone that I was working there says, you have to meet this guy. He is the future of emerging leaders in South Africa. And he became the first ever national leader for South Africa for emerging leaders. And he is an all-round amazing guy. He is a joy to be with.
Thank you.
He is inspiring to be with, which is why I've asked him to share this with me tonight and with us.
Much appreciated. Yeah, extremely humbled to join you guys tonight. Yes.
All right. So Lennox, I got some questions that I'd like us to talk around as a way of trying to unpack this question of how do we become an inspiring person? And the reason why we look at this is people look at people like Nelson Mandela and say, wow, he was inspiring, but I could never be like him. And the Youth Compass Project says, no, you'll never be Nelson Mandela. Only Nelson Mandela could be Nelson Mandela, but you can be you. You can become your own inspiration to others. So I'll unpack that more later. But so Lennox, my first question is just briefly, tell us a little about around your own story. Help us to get to know you a little bit.
Thank you very much once again, Trevor, and thanks to the team around the table. I firstly want to acknowledge, Trevor, your impact in my story this evening. Obviously, starting from our journey together at You Bring Emerging Leaders to South Africa. It has been an extreme honor and a privilege to work with you and to, as one of the friends earlier said, to learn from you. And it's a continuous learning journey being surrounded by somebody like you. So thank you very much. Much of what I will share with you tonight would also come from the lessons learned in the work I've done for emerging leaders and working with you and other leaders in emerging leaders. After my background, as you might have known, I'm born in South Africa in a very turbulent time of the history of our country. I was born 2 years before the uprising of the youth of this country. I was born 1974, about 18 months before the eruption of youth in Soweto, over issues of the poor education and obviously, rights for all South Africans, equality, etc. My upbringing was mainly influenced by what's happening and being in the heat, in the middle of apartheid, the policy of segregation in South Africa, racial divisions in the country. My life, growing up in a family of, I would say, activists, and that obviously surrounded by activists as a role model, that actually influenced my consciousness around what's happening around me, becoming aware of the gross injustice that's happening in the country and in other parts of the world. And that actually elevated me also to become part of those activities, largely inspired by the story of the names of people like Nelson Mandela, people like Walter Sisulu, Oliver Tambo, Ahmed Kathrada, and so many others who were spearheading the liberation struggle that time against apartheid and against colonialist rule before that. So that in the main, and I grew up in the farm areas of the Western Cape, where to some extent, obviously, a large contribution was also made in the resistance by farm workers. My parents were farm workers. And so I grew up in that environment of being aware of what's happening around me, and consciously made a decision at an early age to become part of the resistance movement, the liberation struggle. I remember at age 14, 15, I already joined the youth league at school. I had joined the school formation, and later at the age now, so I've formed my consciousness and my upbringing to where I'm finding
Lennox,
myself
you were in
today.
charge of one of South Africa's prisons.
That's correct.
Invited me to come and speak to the prisoners one
Yeah,
day. And when I got there, he told me, kind of most of them were in there. So it was an interesting day. But what was most interesting, I will always remember, is these prisoners, after we'd done a very short presentation, they said, if I'd have known that I was a young person, I would not be in prison today. And that's why we want to reshape the stories of young lives. So Lennox, my next question is this. I asked this of each of my guests. Tell me about the challenges that you think youth in South Africa are facing right now.
Yeah, Trevor, the youth, I think we've done a lot of work in South Africa since your arrival with emerging leaders. And thanks, Trevor. So as I was saying, many of the promises made by our earlier leaders in the early 90s, in 30 years later in the new democracy called South Africa, many of those promises were never fulfilled, and young people are finding themselves on the fringes of the developments of the country, the economy of the country. There's huge anger amongst young people in South Africa. If you look at over the last 10 to 15 years, the political formations that have been formed in the country, there are about 2 or 3 major formations formed and currently led and driven by young people. And those are radical formations. They are radical about expediting economic transformation. We have young people who are impatient, who are no longer tolerant to the voices that used to be called the voices of reason, voices that originated in the times of Nelson Mandela, the leaders of then. Today, those leaders are regarded as irrelevant because the young people of today regard them as passive. They have sold out. According to the young people, they have not brought back South Africa to the indigenous youth of this country. So you've got on all the civil unrest on the country, mainly 90% and more of it are driven by young people. If it's about housing, if it's about jobs, if it's about access to economic opportunities, if it is about development opportunities, studies. Recently, we had a massive outcry over the fees must fall in South Africa. Over the last 5 years, we've had those campaigns. Those were driven by young people. Students died. Young people died fighting for access to education. So I would say the challenges confronting young people today is they strongly feel they have not been listened to over the last 30 years. They have been taken for granted. That your cabinets of most of these leading political parties would, up until the last 2 years, the last 6 elections. So as I was saying, Trevor, in terms of having a voice in decision making in legislatures, since we are now in the 7th administration of this country since 1994. The first 6 administrations have radically only had old people representing the country in decision making.
Right.
That gave rise to young people standing up and saying, we no longer follow you. You might have liberated us, but you are no longer speaking for us, because you're a bunch of old people sitting in parliament, getting wealthy, getting overweight, getting sick, dying in power, and having not done enough to transform the economy and the country at large. So there's a huge disgruntlement of young people in the country.
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about there, Lennox, we see across many countries is young people are there is a huge frustration growing, as well as
Absolutely.
good energy. Some good energy there. So let me just
Yes.
ask you then, who do you think these young people's role models are right now? Who's inspiring them? Whether good,
I
but
must,
they could be good or bad.
yeah. I must be quite honest. There's a range of these role models coming to the fore. Obviously, young people still look up to those, especially black youth are looking up at black successful young people. They can either be in the
Yeah,
music industry, either be in art, but strongly in politics because those are making headlines every day. And one of
right.
those formations in South African context is the Economic Freedom Fighters. They are a
Right.
radical group of young people formed about 10, 11 years ago. And the explicit objective was to mobilize young people to fight to retain the economy of the country with a slogan that
Yes.
says economic freedom in our lifetime. So the young people are now inspired by various role models, but politically, it's the role models you see in the political formations, EFF and others, who are very aggressive, very militant, unapologetic. They challenge the status quo. They challenge the order. They confront
Yeah.
issues of inequality, racism, white privilege, etc. So those in the main are those kind of role models young people are looking to. Then obviously here and
Right.
there are some successful positive role models also in the light of people who are doing good in business. But I must be honest, the most popular are those who are grasping the headlines every day. And they will be followed
All
by your
right.
gang leaders. They will be followed by
Ah,
those who are the notorious gang leaders, those who are the notorious, money spinners, fast cars, big
yeah.
mansions. Young people are still aspiring to those. So
Yeah.
there's still a variety of role models. What we lack and what we miss in this whole equation are elders being portrayed and seen as role models. I must be honest, and
So
this is
talk.
maybe something that you need to touch on in our conversation this
Well,
evening.
I want to talk about it a bit more. I'm glad you mentioned eldership. Um, if you could inspire all of our listeners, young or old, to aspire to become an elder, what would you say to them?
Trevor, I would, in my view, it would be. I had the privilege of being surrounded by elders in my community. I grew up in the same tribal or traditional setting that the late Nelson Mandela grew up in. The Ise
Mm.
Xhosa, Amaxhosa, tribe in one of the African tribes in South Africa. I grew up in a community where it was close knit, where the elders, took charge of protecting the community. And we were surrounded by elders who played various roles in the community as part of protecting the community, as part of ensuring they instill good values and good examples in our community. Today, my encouragement would first be to young people: if you want to be inspired, look for those people in your community, either in a church,
Yeah.
either in a choir, either in a football team, either leading a group of cattle farmers. There's so much wisdom and leadership invested in our communities with the elders who are still there, although sadly, Trevor, many of them are dying out. Those that we grew up, if now have passed on. But look at those who are doing good in the community, those who are plowing back and sowing back in terms of sharing knowledge, skill, expertise, and sharing their wisdom for the benefit of the community. So my encouragement would really be for young people considering to become an elder, it would be find those elders that you can learn from and sit at their feet. You know,
Yeah.
find
Very good.
opportunity to have an elder speaking into your life.
Yeah.
In your book, Trevor, you so aptly touched on it, that even Nelson Mandela had those elders in his life. He had
Yes.
people as a youngster. He had people who inspired him. He had people who
Yes.
inspired them with their courage, to stand up, people who could speak with authority. His father and others in his family were many of those role models. I believe today we should encourage young people. I'm saying this to my son also, to my two sons. Find an elder in your community. It
Yeah,
might not be in the family, but find elders, learn from them. What are the things that
very
they do
good.
that make you feel good, and learn how they do it, and learn to
Very good.
speak to them, So those are my encouragement. I was extremely blessed, Trevor. I am so grateful that I had elders in my life. Just imagine,
Mm.
as a young man growing up without a father figure at home. But if it weren't for elders in our community, I did a choir. I played football. I was part of a choir. I could sing in a choir. I was in church. I was the boy called to dust off the chairs. We were at a
Yeah.
church in a small house. I would have to dust off the chairs, before the church would start. I would have to put on the hymn books and put it in order before the church. And that was under the tutorship of an elder. Somebody would say, put it like that, put it like that. Yeah, and then when when the church would begin, what are the things you do? And those things kept us connected to the elders.
Right.
It kept us, even when there were slaughtering functions, when they would slaughter an ox or whatever would be slaughtered as a part of a festival in the community. I would always be called to be around them. As they were
Yes.
eating meat, yeah, you would be called
Yeah.
to eat a piece of meat and just share with them,
Yeah.
and eat a little bit of the selected piece that was meant for the elders. You'd get a piece of that.
Wow.
So my encouragement would be, find the elders in your community,
Very
and
that,
form a
that's it.
relationship with them.
Yeah. That's inspiring in itself, Lennox.
Yes.
So my next
Yes.
question is who or what is inspiring you these days? What is it that they're doing? And I've got this other question.
Yes.
The people that are inspiring you and are offering something, how do you think they learned to do that? And so just talk to me just for a few minutes about who or what is inspiring you these days and how it's happening.
Trevor, I draw inspiration from so many people in my life today, and these are often people who are doing things in local communities, people who are doing things at the national level of what you see in our country, trying to bring South Africans together. People who are trying to hold on to the dream of the rainbow nation, that we are all created equal before the Lord, and that we should live, try to work to live in harmony with each other. I'm inspired by the work I see doing by the Institute of Justice in trying to heal the wounds of the past through dialogue, peaceful ways of bringing South Africans together and find a pathway to healing. And those are some of the elders, and that involves a lot of elders in communities. I have at some point also worked with, while I was in prison, I've worked with the restorative justice programs of people who've been victims of crime, who've lost children to crime. You might have heard about a very sad but inspiring story of a young American girl called Amy Beale, who found herself at the wrong place at the wrong time in South Africa as a student from the US, and was
Mm.
unfortunately caught up in an incident that cost her a life, that took her life. She was an innocent bystander when young people, under the banner of one of the liberation movements, attacked her for they saw this opportunity. There's a young girl, innocent as she was, and they brutally killed her.
Yes.
They went to prison for that. But the beauty for that story was the parents of Amy Beale, who formed the Amy Beale Foundation as a tool to bring peace and harmony, and forgave those young people and worked with them
Wow.
towards reconciliation, peace. And so those are the people who are inspiring me today, Trevor. And what's inspiring, where they
Very
learned it
good.
from, I want to believe they saw compassion. Many of the people I work with in the Institute of Justice and Reconciliation learned from people like the late Archbishop Tutu, who was the patron of the
Yes.
Institute for Justice here, who preached,
Yeah.
reconciliation, who preached peacemaking. So a lot of them, when you engage with them, those are the lessons they learned from people like Archbishop
Very.
Tutu, Nelson Mandela, and other elders.
Yep.
Yes.
So listen, if you could look at all these people that inspire you and maybe choose 3 qualities that stand out as inspiring, what 3 qualities would you recognize? If you can, I don't know.
Yes, yes, T. No. Thanks for the question, Trevor. Looking at the people I looked up to, and as I've said, in all the institutions and in the communities I work with and I'm living in, it's one of the things is selflessness. That it's all about others. And I've picked that up. It's all about others, whether it's about listening to the cry of others, it's about listening to the pain of others. It's never about them. It's never about imposing themselves onto others. It's always about what's to the betterment of others. I'm looking and the other one is also the dedication to doing good, the persistent to do good. I remember my mother was one person I will never forget as a very inspiring person. She would always remind us that in all circumstances, find a space to do good.
Mm.
They would also do good because good deeds never expire.
Mm.
Doing good unto others never becomes out of fashion.
Mm.
So they persistently do good. And lastly, I think one of the things for me that also stand out is they've got a consciousness that they need to leave something behind, Trevor. They
Right.
do these things, deliberately, knowing and being aware that they need to leave a positive footprint, because somebody else will follow in that footprint. They take great care in the kind of footprints they leave behind, because knowing that there's a next generation that must follow. I want to tell you this one story, Trevor. I met the late Amit Katrada, who was one of the fellow Robben
Yes.
Islanders with Madiba. I had an awesome privilege of meeting him at a very short engagement at the airport in Cape Town, 2014. I was on my way to flying from Cape Town to another province. I met him at the airport pushing his luggage. He had one trolley, was pushing. And I took the courage to greet him and just say, Comrade Katie, good morning. My name is Lennox. I just wanted to shake your hand if possible and to thank you for what you've done,
Okay.
you and Comrade Nelson and others, what you've done for our country. I was so humbled by his response. He stood still, Trevor, and he shook my hand. And you know what he said? We were only doing our part.
Hmm.
We were only doing our part. The next one is yours. So
Wow.
that consciousness, yeah, it was, listen, no bodyguards, no entourage. He was
Yeah.
walking alone, Trevor. So those, there's a consciousness that they need to leave a positive footprint behind. Those for me are the 3 in thinking about it, outstanding characteristics, I would say I drew from them. Yes.
Okay. And you and I got to go to Robben Island, where Mandela was in prison
Awesome.
for 27 years. And if I just said to you again, just very quickly,
Mm.
how did Mandela specifically inspire you?
Yeah.
What were the
Well,
qualities that specifically inspired you?
Trevor, I grew up hearing the one side of Mandela being the stories we heard. He was this fighter, he was this militant young man, until I got closer to reading his book and to understanding his thoughts and to
Hmm.
understanding the greatest fight that Nelson Mandela ever fought was the fight of bitterness. He fought that
Wow.
fight within himself. And what broke me when I was in Robben Island was the discovery that in spite of how he was treated, he won that fight, because vengeance was never on the table. In spite of how he was, what inspired me the most was vengeance was never on the table. And that is what I carry with me today. If I never spent 27 years in prison, away from my family, my children, my grandchildren, my wife, lost my family because of that, why would I want to take revenge? Why would I put bitterness on the table when a man like Nelson Mandela, who suffered so much, didn't do that? And that for me is the greatest attribute Nelson Mandela has passed on to
Wow.
me. Yes.
Thank you. That is so powerful. So let's just come back specifically again to inspiration. Do you think that it's only a few people in the world like Mandela that can be inspiring, or do you think that all of us can become inspiring? What does that mean?
Wow. Trevor, I believe, and I'm so privileged I've done the Emerging Leaders program, that we are all leaders, at some level of our lives, and that we have the amazing potential. And in any given circumstances, there's always an opportunity to inspire somebody else. It's in all of us. I believe whether
Yeah.
it's in educating people who've never had an opportunity to be educated, in feeding others, in caring for others, in setting an example that can make others believe that they can also do it. If living your life in such a way, your success is
Yeah.
not rubbed in people's faces, but it's spilling off, the lessons, learnable lessons. So I think all of us, Trevor, I'm of the view that in all spaces of our lives, we can become inspiring unto others. If we can
Very
obviously
good.
draw in the things that inspire us
Yeah.
and share that and transpire those to
Yeah.
others, yes.
Yeah, excellent. So my last question, and we've only got a couple of minutes, is what can young people do on a regular basis to become more inspiring?
Trevor, I have learned is to look at what are the things that what are the things that make us small and confront those. Um, and then obviously confront those and believe that we can also contribute to the betterment of a society around us. My encouragement, if
Yeah.
I were to encourage young people tonight, would be, first of all, as I've said, find the things that inspire you in the behavior and actions of others. And then,
Yeah.
secondly, learn from them. And then also learn how they keep on doing it. Learn how those aspiring behaviors and actions has become their daily habits and has become part of who they ultimately are. And that for me is what I would want to, and then find and build on the things that make, because we are surrounded by so many things that wants to drag us down, but find those things that uplift you, either in the beauties of today, in the actions of others, in the finer appreciations for things we see happening, in spite of the turmoil, the beautiful things we see, and build on that. And when you are surrounded by elders, fortunate enough to have them either in your family or the neighbors in the street or in the village, learn from them. Find time to sit at their feet, and learn
Yeah.
from those valuable lessons they can share with you. Yes. That would really be my encouragement for
Wow.
young people.
Brilliant. Lennox, this has been priceless, and I'm
Thank
profoundly
you.
grateful to you for this conversation. And
I'm humbled and grateful for the opportunity.
I hope through the recording, many, 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 many people get to hear you this evening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and your heart and your clarity. So thank you very much indeed. I'm going to just put you on mute.
Trevor,
Yeah.
may the Lord continue to bless you. May you continue with your ikigai. May you continue. May you continue with it. Yeah. May you continue to sow the good seeds in the lives of others. Yeah. I'm a believer there's a reward beyond this life that waits for us. And you've got the privilege of seeing some of the fruit return in your lifetime in the lives of others you've inspired. I'm one of those, and I'm extremely grateful for you having have met somebody like you, Trevor. Thank you very much. Blessings to you, and thank you to the audience this evening.
Thank you. Wow, what an amazing gift that was. So in the last few minutes, I I just want to just conclude with some thoughts about inspiring. Let's just talk about it. So let me just talk about inspiring for a few minutes, because I agree with Lennox. This is for everybody, not just a few, all of us. The word inspiring actually means to breathe. When we talk about inspiring, the root of that word inspiring means literally to breathe in. So every time you breathe in, you are inspiring. And the word, as we are using it, is when you then breathe out good air for other people, you expire that air so that they can inspire it. So when people have said to me, how do you become inspiring? I've said to them, you will be inspiring if you are inspiring. What do I mean by that? What I mean is what you breathe in your life is what is going to come out of your life. You see, all of us are impacting other people all the time. Do you know every time you walk in the room, whether you're smiling or frowning, the look on your face, the sound in your voice, the way you greet or ignore, a little action, whether you open the door, whether you say hi, whether you ask the person who is serving you for their name, whatever, every moment of every day, you are influencing people. You are breathing something and it's impacting them. The question is, what is it? You see, either we breathe life into people or we breathe stale air. And what stale air is, there's really not much oxygen in there. In other words, you hear people talk a lot and do a lot, but there's not much life in it. It doesn't inspire. It doesn't contribute much to other people's lives. And the worst case scenario is we end up suffocating them. We control them. We steal all the air from them. Lennox talked about the gangs in South Africa. It's true everywhere. What the gangs do is they suck the life out of a young person. And what they make the young person do is breathe the gang leader's life out into the world, not that young person's life. So we have these options. So to be inspiring, we need to be thinking about what are we breathing in. The other reason about inspiring is inspiring acts like a mirror. You see, when you come across someone who inspires you, it hits an emotion inside of you. Well, just think about it. It's hitting an emotion inside of you. So it means that their act of inspiration is turning a light on something inside of you, your undiscovered potential. So when you meet someone who inspires you with their courage, what it means is they are lighting up within you and your potential the possibility of you discovering more courage or compassion or whatever it may be. So inspiration acts like a mirror to reveal our undiscovered potential. And as I say, why is this important? Is because you and I are impacting people all of the time. And when you know people well, I walk into the room and my wife will say to me, "What's wrong?" I say, "What do you mean, what's wrong?" She said, "Something's wrong." I said, "No, I'm fine." She said, "No, something's wrong." When you're close to people, you can pick it up really fast. Others you don't know so well, you can pick it up a little bit slower. But we are impacting people all of the time. What are we breathing into them? So how do we become inspiring? Well, one is that Lennox has already talked about it. It's think about who's inspiring you. And I think one of the problems of unhelpful role models is we look to the rich and the famous and big names who give big speeches. That is not inspiring. That's just noise. The most inspiring people, I think Lennox gave many examples there, are people of courage. People who had the courage to stand up, do something different. People who are full of compassion and empathy, people with vision for benefiting their communities. You know, if you said, Trevor, who inspires you? There's a guy called Stuart that inspires me right now. And 99.99999% of the world will never, ever know about Stuart. But Stuart is a young guy I met who left school with hardly any results in exams. And he now runs an NGO that is stopping girls being trafficked in Eastern Europe by providing them with education, by providing orphans with homes, by providing work for local communities to lead themselves out of poverty. This guy, Stuart, you won't meet him, but he inspires me. I've got a friend in Rwanda who he's in a wheelchair. He inspires me. His courage, his resilience, setting up a farming project here and a farming project there. However much life beats him down, he keeps going. He inspires me. Compassion inspires me. Justice inspires me. So all of these things. So look for people who are inspiring. And then the other thing is pay attention to what you are breathing in, because what you breathe in life is what you breathe out. So let me just give you a few very quick examples. What are you reading right now? People often say to me, you know, you're quoting this or you're quoting that. Well, the reason why I do that is I read a lot. I'm feeding myself all the time with the inspiration of other people's writings and thoughts. Learning any new idea, any new skill. Right now, I am learning at 68 years old how to play jazz piano. My teacher inspires me. So just learning a new skill it's putting a whole new learning inside of you. Listening, get curious about the lives of everyone around you. You know, I said when I was in Orange Farm in South Africa, these young people didn't turn up, but these go-go's, these older women who were activists during apartheid, they showed up and they've all got a story. All of them have got a story. Get interested, get curious. Experience, pay attention to your life experience. All of your life experience is rich with learning if you took the time. So just because you got 24 hours experience yesterday doesn't mean to say you got 24 hours learning or wisdom. So spend time reflecting on your experience. Coping with difficulties shapes us more than anything, the difficult times. So the reason why people who are inspiring to us when they have courage is nobody grew courage on a sunny day. They grew courage on the tough days in their lives. That's what grows courage. So every tough thing that comes into your life is an opportunity to learn, to develop courage, and your courage will be an inspiration to others. So meditating, new ideas, new thoughts, find out what everybody else is reading, what everybody else is learning at the moment. And walk in nature. Nature is inspiring. You know, I was out in the garden early this morning, walking barefoot on the grass to just be in touch with the earth and nature. And at the end of my garden, I came across a single red rose. And I knelt down and I smelt it, and it was the smell was so powerful. And you know what I thought? I thought this rose is not performing for anybody. It's not looking for an audience. It's just being what it can be, which is a brilliant rose. It's inspiring by just being fully what it is. The more you become fully you, the more you will be inspiring. That means dealing with parts of us that we've ignored or find difficult. But I think walking in nature, being in nature, listening and learning from nature and how it works, and just being curious. I've watched spiders in the last week weaving their webs, and just, they are amazing. So all of those things, caring for other people. And then this brings us all the way back to the Youth Compass project, practicing the 22 qualities in the 22 challenges in the Youth Compass project are designed to make you an inspiring person for your generation. So that's how you can become inspiring. And inspiring, it's important to say inspire to what? You know, a lot of people say, oh, I went to this talk and I was inspired. And I always say, inspired to what? You see, sometimes we see something or listen to something, we go, wow, that's amazing, courage. And the question is, okay, what did you do with that? How did you, what area of your life did you bring courage to because of that person? So think about what inspiration is leading you to, what action it is leading you to. Now I'm going to come out of my slideshow and I'm going to stop there. So what I'm going to do is just hold out on questions, because this week we'll look through the chat box and we'll note the questions, and Ivan can help me do that in a minute, is just log any questions that are in there, Ivan, because I have a challenge for everyone this week. We started with 10 people at 7:30 and we've ended up with around 30, which is brilliant. Only you and I, by being courageous, inspiring people, can get other people to come and listen to this stuff. Only you and I can do it. No one's going to turn up by themselves. Only you and I can get them here. So my challenge and my encouragement to you this week is, listen, take what you've learned tonight and the inspiring talk from Lennox. Spend a bit of time thinking about it. What did I get from that? What did I get from that session tonight? And then my encouragement to you is, in the next few days, start sharing it with other people, just friends, anybody you met. So I was at this talk. I heard this guy from South Africa. He was saying this, he was saying that. Heard Trevor say this, or he quoted that. Just share. And what you're doing when you do that, you will be breathing out. You're going to be breathing out what you've breathed in. So you've heard it tonight. I'm inspired by Lennox. Spend some time taking that inspiration in, that breath into you. What have I learned? What have I learned? Let it feed you. And then you breathe it out through your conversations with other people this week. And then the last thing is, invite them here next week, and invite them that we start at 2:30. We do not start at 1:45 or 10:45. We start at 2:30. So I look forward to seeing you next week. This session has been recorded. I will, in the next 48 hours, put it into shape and get it out to everybody that's on mine and Ivan's newsletter list. So you'll all get a copy. And I'm going to ask Lennox whether he's happy that I put his interview on YouTube and on LinkedIn, because it's very powerful. So thanks, everybody. Thank you again to Lennox, and thank you hugely to Ivan and our Ugandan host team, who again have been brilliant in making tonight happen. And I really do want to honor them, their commitment, their faithfulness, even when things look a little bit discouraging. Huge, huge encouragement to Ivan and the team. So thank you.